It says I'm live. Let's adjust this a little bit and see what happens. Good morning. And as I said, good morning on the little message thing there. Please comment and ask questions as you like. It's more fun if this is interactive. Let's give it a moment, see if anybody shows up. I'm not in this for the big commercial success. So there is several people that RSVP'd, and you can never tell by looking at the viewers online if anybody's there or not, and there's always also a delay. Anyway, so we're going to get started. We've got a lot of content as usual. This is going to be a lot of fun. So again, as I said, good morning. Please comment and ask questions as you like. There's always a delay, so if I don't see it right away, it's not that I'm not paying attention. I'll continue to try to look and see if there's any questions. Thanks for coming. So first of all, look at my harmonic synthesis of spiritual triangle, which is also at the bottom there, tree of life. And so this has been a modality that I've wanted to present on for a long time. It's one of my favorites. And so this is part 2. Hopefully you made part 1. We're going to get a little more in detail to this very complex and beautiful system of mysticism. What is a system of mysticism? A process, a method, a school, a process and method to become enlightened, to become realized within your lifetime, to become purely spiritual being rather than a material being. So here we go, Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, part 2. A very brief, not so much of a review, but just catch up where we were. What is Tree of Life? It represents the process of manifestation of souls and creation. It represents the process of liberation of souls. What is the process of liberation? To transcend the material phenomena, to escape from material phenomena into spiritual phenomena, consciously, spiritually, etc., to become that. It is a roadmap, a blueprint, a template, a user's guide to be able to do this. This is what Kabbalah and Tree of Life actually is. It's a user's guide. It's a roadmap. It's a blueprint. It's a system to be able to use to transcend material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So we've got a lot of components, and we reviewed them 2 weeks ago in the part 1. The origins, reading the map, the Hebrew alphabet. These are all parts of the system. Gematria, Notarikon, Tamura. We're going to briefly go over these things today. These are amazing. As a matter of fact, let's pause right there and go to it. Here's the workbook that I have for sale on the website. This is a 49-page 50-page workbook. Comes with a pull-out, so you can kind of read as you go and have the stuff to look at while I'm referring to it. This is the printed version, but the ones online at the website are downloadable, instant download. Therefore, a lot less expensive. So let's look at Gematria, Notarikon, and Tamura, and briefly go into those, because the workbook goes into detail on all these things. It not only tells you what they are, but how to use them. It gives you samples and examples on how to do it. What took me years to be able to study and read and learn, I'm presenting to you in a couple of pages. That doesn't mean that I'm leaving anything out. My skill set as a writer and as a producer is exactly that. I'm able to condense and distill a lot of information and knowledge into very accessible information and knowledge in a very short span. We can get very bogged down as I read these volumes of material, like Israel Regardie's Garden of Pomegranates. We get bogged down. It's overwhelming. Garden of Pomegranates is this thick. This is this thick. It's 50 pages. And it teaches you what it is and how to use it. If you want more, because you're interested in it and you get intrigued and you like the way it works, then you want to go into the deeper things and the bigger things that the other authors have put together over the years, over the centuries. But this is more than a beginner's workbook. What we're presenting here and what this workbook does, it teaches you how to use it, to more than sample it, but actually get some mileage out of it. And again, if you want to make a life of it, you can. So gematria is used to discover the mystical meaning of a word and its power. Once a word's power is discovered, it can then be used to express that quality. I like to borrow a good example from Israel Regardie's Garden of Pomegranates. In this excellent source guide for Kabbalah, he uses the word nashosh, which means serpent. It is written You can't see it, but I got it in Hebrew here. In Hebrew, and whose letters add up to 358. Now take the word Messiah, which also adds up to 358. This means that both words carry the same vibration and quality, but do they? So gematria is a system with Tree of Life Kabbalah. You use the Hebrew alphabet, which is far more than just letters and sounds. They represent symbols, they represent concepts. Each letter in the Hebrew alphabet, all 22 of them, represent concepts. And so with gematria, we have a system where we can discover the power and value and vibrational quality of a word or a name. And we can use this in a condensed style and version for power to meditate on, like a mantra. So this explains in the workbook, which we won't go into today online, how to use gematria, a very profound system within Kabbalah. The next one is notarikon. This is a way of condensing phrases or statements into short and little words of powerful meaning. The most common one in Kabbalah is KABBALAH. And I have a pronunciation here, which I can't do online. I can't pronounce it. I don't speak Hebrew. I used to be able to a little bit. So KABBALAH, in Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Lamed, Gimel, and Aleph. This four-letter word carries the power and vibration of a very powerful phrase, all compacted into one small package. It is a sort of acronym for the phrase Ate Gebara Leolam Adonai, which loosely translated means, "Thou art almighty forever, my Lord." So if you speak KABBALAH as a mantra or as an incantation during ceremony, that you invoke its power and praise of God in a concentrated and potent form. So instead of saying all these things, we condense and distill these powerful phrases like magic words, very much like magical words, to be able to get their vibration and quality. Again, like a mantra means represents something. It doesn't really matter what it is. We can use anything. We can make up anything we want, but these vibrations have certain pronunciations like a mantra does in Sanskrit. The pronunciations, the syllables, the breath that's required to pronounce it has very powerful vibrational qualities that go within your subtle body. So notarikon and gematria are two of them. And then we have temura. And pardon me if I'm not saying these right. I'm just a white guy from the suburbs. I don't. This one I like a lot. This is the trickiest of the three forms of Kabbalistic wordplay, but it can also be the most fun. Temura means permutation, which itself means to transform by rearranging. Here's an example. Wish I had a sample of this so that I could show on the slide. Let's see if you can see it. Let me see there. So you see that little section of alphabet. And so we take the word Messiah again. And basically what this does is shows you in the workbook how to set up a system where you choose the letters for any word or name, the phrase that you want. And through a process of permutation by mixing and matching and crossing them, you come up with again very powerful and potent phrases and words, like magic words, like presto. For example, as we get into tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton is the four-letter word of God. Yod He Vav He. And there's a big section in this workbook for tetragrammaton as well that explains this. Again, it's a bit lengthy to go into here on a live stream presentation. But what we're doing again is we have another formula for distilling the powerful vibrations and qualities of these consonants, syllables, the way that they're spoken, that we can manifest within ourselves and without ourselves by using this system. It's a form of meditation. It's a form of a process to be able to unionize and join ourselves with these processes, what their qualities are. Instead of just an intellectual or academic concept, they become more emotional, something that we can experience and have a resonance with. So there's a very good 2-3 page description of what tetragrammaton is and how it's used. And now we're going to set the book aside and go back down into, so these are some of the features. Again, as I mentioned in the first workshop, on Kabbalah and Tree of Life. It's a very profound and very complex system, but I don't want the word complex to scare anybody off. When we hear complex, we think, well, that's just too much. Like, I want something simple. We do. But the complexity of Kabbalah and Tree of Life is its beauty. It's the thing that I gravitate to, because yes, you take some time to learn and be able to practice these systems. But once you do, they start to flow very smoothly. Same with any system, like yoga. Yoga takes some time, some real time to get good at. And I'm not very good at it. But after a while, what was challenging and difficult and seemed almost impossible becomes a lot easier. Practice makes perfect. True with any system. The beauty about the complexities of Tree of Life and Kabbalah is that it's so layered and textured, that there's so many layers and textures to it, that it just seems, as it should be, infinite and bottomless. There's just more and more layers, and you get to choose the system and method and styles that you like, that resonate with you personally. Like I said, with Tamara and Tarragon or Gematria. Use all three, use one, use two, whatever you like. So this is three of the systems that are within Kabbalah Tree of Life. Then we have, again, the Tetragrammaton. God is a four-letter word. Some people can spend their entire lives just studying the Tetragrammaton. The concept here is that the very vibration and essence and power of God himself, the creative power, the divine power itself, is carried within the name. This is true in multiple traditions. I am a Bhakti Yoga practitioner. I practice Bhakti Yoga. We do Kirtan. Kirtan is when you chant and vibrate the names of God to be able to invoke and evoke. Evoke and invoke. Invoke is when you bring it in. Invoke those qualities, the personality, the features, the nature of the divine power of love. Tetragrammaton more than represents that. Again, same as with mantras, the vibrational qualities with these things carry so much depth. It's not arbitrary. Then we're going to get into today these different concepts. We're going to break these down. We've got climbing the tree. That's what we're going to be doing today, climbing the tree. That's what this workshop is called today, is climbing the tree. The 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths, we're going to review those. The whole tree, the veil, the abyss, and the triple veil. Very beautiful. The four worlds and bodies. The three pillars. And the lightning flash, and building your own tree fort. So this is it. This is the topics we're going over today. The 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths. The whole tree, the veil, the abyss, and the triple veil. The four worlds and bodies, Atziluth, the world of emanation, Bria, the world of creation, Yetzirah, the world of form, and Asaya, the world of action. The three pillars, severity, mercy, and mildness. The lightning flash, which is, for me, like the crux of it, and building your own tree fort. So let's review the 10 Sephiroth. Now, again, in the book here, in my workbook, which you can buy online and download, or you can get a print version, which costs a little bit more. We're going to very briefly go over how to understand a Sephiroth, the fruits of the tree. In the book here, every Sephiroth has almost its own page just to describe what it is, what its qualities are, and how to use it. We can't do that here. But again, what we have here, as we go into climbing the tree in the book, I'll give you an example. So, well, there's no image here. But here is the description of Malkuth, the bottom Sephiroth of manifestation. It tells you what it is, what it means, the Malkuth, the world that it's in, the astrological, etc. And we're going to go over some of that now. So let's go to what the tree looks like. Here's a legend of it. We have the Sephiroth, which is over there, the little round sphere, and its name at the top, Tifereth, and its number, and it means beauty. The tarot suit that represents it, which is the suit of swords, and the planetary astrological correspondence, which in this case is the sun. So we have this legend that shows us what a Sephiroth is, what the basics are, and that's on the tree. So it gives you a little bit of a brief review of what they're like, and then we go and we look at them. 10 Sephiroth, 10 fruits on the tree, and the paths that connect them. This is what the tree of life is. So here's an example. We start at the top. The Sephiroth are the round spheres. Keter, Bina, Chokmah, and then you see the one in the middle called Dot. Dot is a Go Sephiroth. We're going to get into that in a moment. So let's again review Keter, concept, inception. That's kind of what it represents. This is the top of the tree. This is the process of manifestation of the divine process of creation. How the world, how the universe is made in 7 days, as they say in the Torah and in the Bible. So it represents concept and inception, the beginning. Everything starts with simply a concept and inception. Where it comes from, there's realms above that, which we'll go into in a little bit. But as it begins, as God wants to will manifestation of the universe and of a soul into a human being, every process of creation begins with an inception, a concept, some abstract idea that we don't even really know where it came from. And it splits off. It becomes two. The one concept becomes two things that start to manifest and become real. Bina represents purpose and intent. Why are we doing this? We have to have some kind of feeling about it, some type of purpose, some kind of understanding of what it is, which is what Bina represents and means. Literally in Hebrew, Bina means understanding. That is not separate from, but simultaneous with Chokmah, knowledge and application. We must have the knowledge, we must have the understanding on one side of the tree, the feminine side, and the male side. Am I getting that right? I'm not sure. You probably don't know. Any questions? Let me double check. Okay, so we have on both sides of the tree again as we begin the process of manifestation, and this is the divine process, but this is our process. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to bake a cake, make some lunch. First, it comes with a concept and inception, and then we know that we're hungry, and we know we want to make something to eat. We go look in the refrigerator. We get some kind of purpose and intent. Well, why? Because I'm hungry. I want to solve my hunger issue, and we have knowledge and application. I know how to do it. I know where the food is. So you put these things together. This is the process of manifestation that starts with an abstract idea, the concept, and begins to become more real. Now, we also have Dot. The hyperlink is what I refer to it as, and that's the bridge. This is the Go Sephiroth that connects the understanding with knowledge and application. Understanding without knowledge and application is useless. Knowledge and application without understanding is useless. The knowledge and application represents more the academic understanding of things. And the understanding, Bina, purpose and intent, it represents why. When we combine the academic knowledge of making that sandwich, 2 pieces of bread and something in between, with the understanding of why we're doing it and the intent, because we want to solve our hunger. We want to solve our hunger so that we are healthy and strong, so that we can continue to serve in a spiritual way, because otherwise our bodies are wasting away. So these things come together, and they're linked with this Go Sephiroth in between of Dot. This will be the only Go Sephiroth in the tree, and you'll see why in a little bit as we get down into the realms. So this is the process of manifestation as it comes down from the spiritual realm. And we get in the middle of the tree. We have more Sephiroth. I was going to show you the whole thing. So we have Tiferoth again, which again we have in each Sephiroth. As we use this as a guide and as a tool, we have the number of the Sephiroth it is, the name of it in Hebrew, the transliteration, the meaning of it in English. It represents each one. You have the 4 5s, the 4 4s, the tarot cards and the suits. Tiferoth is represented by the knights, all the knights of each suit. And then there's the suits. Tiferoth is swords. Again, Geburah doesn't have a suit. It's just the 4s and the 5s and the 4s, etc. So they'll have concepts. And you can see now these branches that link them all together. And this one, it gets, again, wonderfully complex. Each one of those branches is represented by one of the 22 major arcana of the tarot. The Sephiroth represent the minor arcana, or represented by the minor arcana. And the branches represented by the major arcana, the first 22 cards. How many letters in the alphabet of Hebrew? 22. Coincidence? No, no, no. Tarot is the image and pictorial representation of the tree of life, not the other way around. It's not just a medium for telling fortunes. It's not really designed for that whatsoever. It is a pictorial imagery representation of the tree of life, the 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths. That is what tarot is. That's why it was invented. It's become something, pop culture, blah, 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 but the origins of it, which we've gone into in the past. So I'm not going to go into it here. So again, this is amazing because what we do is as we meditate and as we travel down the path and start to understand the process of manifestation, how God does it, how we do it. Microcosm, macrocosm, macrocosm, microcosm. We see the process of taking a concept, an abstract idea, to begin to make it real through intent and emotion and through knowledge and academics. And as we go down to chesed, passion and emotion, we've got to add our own passion. We've got to really connect to what it is we're trying to manifest. In Gebra, which means strength in Hebrew, is the will and the planning. You can put this in any context you want. Making a sandwich. Well, I've got to really have a feeling about it. It isn't until I get really hungry that I really actually bother to go in the kitchen and do it. And again, the will and the planning. Well, do I have the right stuff? Where do I begin? Looking in the cupboards? It doesn't matter if God is creating the universe or we're making a sandwich, it still goes through the same process. And all these mystical modalities express that. And Tifereth, as we continue down the chain of manifestation, traveling down the branches, Tifereth is care and dignity. To do this with some type of care, to take pride in our work. Pride is a four-letter word in spirituality. We don't want ego. We don't want pride, but we do want to be proud and take care and integrity into what it is that we're doing. Dignity. I think the best way for me to describe what Tifereth, beauty, represents is the care and dignity in what it is that we do in our process of manifestations. And those final two coming down as we get to the middle of the tree. Hod. As our idea comes through these, and now we get to appreciation and reflection. We get to appreciate what it is that we're doing as I'm writing, as an author. As I'm doing that, I get to the care and dignity where I wouldn't want to do it carefully. It's my work. My blood's going into this. I want it to be something that can be cherished, something that I can cherish, something that I can really feel good about. And that's Tifereth. And Hod is when we begin to do it. This is when I get to be able to take a look back, step back from my own work, my sandwich or my writing, and say, this is good. This I appreciate. This I like. I'm reflecting on it. At the same time, simultaneously on the other side of the tree is victory, netzach, action and result. So I'm creating it. I'm making it a real, tangible thing. It's going from a abstract concept to something that's beginning to be produced, beginning to be. I've been through the planning. I've got emotion and passion. I've got care and dignity to take pride and detail and put something careful into it, like I'm doing with this presentation. I just slap it together. I try to put care and dignity into it, and then to be able to look back on it and say, okay, I approve of this. This meets what I wanted to do, what I want to produce. Again, I don't just slap these things together, this little slideshow that comes with it and what I'm speaking about. I put time because you deserve it. I want to do good work because you've given me some of your time. You're my guest. I just want to give you something of quality. So the Hod of strength, splendor, Hod is splendor, is the moment where we get to appreciate and reflect. Because the thing is, the reason that's so important also is because if it doesn't hold up, well, then I either need to start over and polish it up. Every time I wash my car, I wash that thing from bumper to bumper. And every time I'm done, I'm like, how did I miss that spot? There's this like glaring dirt spot. And I don't know how that happened. That's the reflection and appreciation where I can step back and look and go, okay, that's not done. That's not good enough. That dirty spot didn't even stand out before, but now that the whole thing's clean, it stands out like a sore thumb. So, and again, action and result. For me as a writer, as I manifest and begin to produce things, the action and result, that's part of the editing. That's me putting it down on paper or putting it into the document. And action and result, where I'm actually doing the work. It's not a concept anymore. It's an abstract idea. I'm beginning to actually begin to physically do things. And as we get down the tree on these two sides, we now begin to distill and funnel it down into the manifestation phase. Yeshod, Sephiroth number 9, means foundation. The 4s, and it's represented by the moon, the subconscious. We're getting down into the real world now. My abstract concept started with an inspiration of an idea, of a story, or a character, whatever it might be. And it's gone through this process of it being distilled and becoming more actionable and more real. And as I enter into foundation, this is where it becomes more solid. It has a foundation to become solid upon. It's not just this shaky abstract thing at all anymore. It's not a concept. It's becoming real. I know what to do in that sandwich concept. I've got the bread out. I've got my dressings out. I've got my ingredients out. They're on the table. They're right there. They're ready to go. I'm producing it. And in Malkut. So Yeshod is the work and the production. And Malkut is the manifestation and the labor itself. Yeshod, you could say, I'm making the sandwich. Malkut is the sandwich is made and it's being consumed. It's fulfilling its manifestation purpose. It's gone down the tree and reached through the process from abstract concept through stage after stage to become a real, tangible, usable thing. Same thing with the tree. These aren't just abstract concepts. We can use them. Every mystical modality and path is a thing we can use to apply with knowledge and understanding. And when we do the foundation in a meditation process, foundation would be when I'm actually in my room, in my meditation room, which is across the hall. I have my kirtan queued up. My altar is open. My incense is burning. Those are all the things that I've done to prepare. And then I'm doing it. That's Malkuth, is making it legit and real. So we've gone down through the process of manifestation. And now, you may have noticed, the little green highlights there have changed. Because now we're going to go back up. We've manifested, we've taken an abstract concept, we turned spirit into material. God has taken spirit or soul and become to make it human and physical. But now we want to take the physical and bring it back up and liberate. That's the process of manifestation. Now we're talking about the process of liberation. Very few mystics in Kabbalah speak much of this. I do. For me, that's all it's about. In my opinion, true Kabbalists like Israel Regardi, they also do, big time. For me, that's all it's about. It's about liberation. I'm already physical and manifested, so I don't want to work on that. I want to work on becoming spiritized, not physical. So as we go back up the tree, Malkuth is where we exist. We're born. Again, I'm already manifested. My spirit, my soul has gone through the process of manifestation to become Malkuth, which by the way means kingdom or earth. And so now it's time to go back up the tree and become spiritized to transcend my material form and existence. Going up to Yeshod, becoming self-aware. So if I'm born and I exist as an infant, that's cool, but I have no awareness of this. I don't know who I am. So Yeshod, you could say, represents kind of like the self-awareness, where we first become aware of ourselves. And that's like an ego ability down there. It's not supposed to be there right now. It's supposed to be right there. So we continue to go up the tree. We're going from primal survival type consciousness, like an infant or like an animal, and we're beginning to grow and expand. And we get up to Netzach, which means victory. Ego and ability. And ego is not a 4-letter word here. Ego is who and what we are. We get to take an active role. I am this, I am that. I have to do this. Me. I got to acknowledge that. It's not going to just happen all on its own. I have to do the work. And Hod with the splendor. Again, the validation and insight to be able to honor and appreciate I'm a living thing. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. I am a spiritual being. So that's the validation and insight to be able to become aware beyond ourselves, our ego, to go a little bit further from that and expand outward. There's more to this universe than me. I'm the center of it in my perception. You're the center of it in your perception. But Hod's splendor allows us to first stage of go beyond that. As an infant sees that, okay, I exist and I'm hungry, wah, wah, wah. But mom, dad, the food machines, the shelter providers, the blanket givers, there's relationships that exist beyond me. And this creates a love and a care in Tifereth, the heart, which means, again, beauty. As we begin to have some sensitivity to our own process of liberation, we want to be more. Why? We know that we want to be more. We need to be more. And we have some love for that. We have some appreciation and validation from Hod, and victory, which is the will to do so. And it becomes something that we begin to love and care about. And as we continue to travel up through the process from material to spiritual, independence and compassion. I thought I typed it wrong. Compassion, independence, not ego. We've transcended ego, but independence, self-reliance, and freedom. Profound concepts that are spiritual in nature, and compassion. How do we as individuals with independence affect the world around us? We're not completely independent. We're all interlinked. So this teaches us to beware and have a concept of our relationship with all things, and that all things have a relationship with us. That whatever we're doing has an effect, a ripple effect of the world around us, and vice versa. As we travel up the tree, we meditate on these qualities. We understand the Sephiroth. We understand the branches, which here is very, very seemingly kind of dark. The tower, the one in between that goes across. The devil, death and Scorpio. The hermit. Because now we're going above the abyss, which I'll go into in a minute. That's profound stuff. So as we travel the paths through the process of liberation, we can meditate on the Sephiroth. We can meditate on the paths, the tarot cards, what they mean. And we don't know what to meditate on. But you get to know it by meditating on it. You build a rapport, a relationship with it. Again, this is what the area of the tree is about relationships, transcending ourselves. So we begin by understanding these concepts, just meditating on them. And they meditate on us. As we travel up the tree, we're now in the heart of it. We're in the center of it. And where are we going? We're going up. We're going back towards where we started. There's Bina and understanding, Hokmah for wisdom. And as we're going up instead of down, now Bina takes on a slightly different angle and flavor to it. Practice and spiritual desire. Again, spiritual desire, not just desire. We're desire machines. We can't stop desiring. But at this stage, we become spiritually desired. We desire spirituality, not just things that serve our body or even just our minds. We want and need and crave things that serve our spirituality and our spirit. And this is what spiritual knowledge, Hokmah, wisdom, begins to mean. Wisdom is the combination of experience and academics. Academics is, I understand things. I've gained the knowledge, gone to school. Experience is when I've applied them. I've learned the hard way what works and what doesn't, and why. When we combine these together, again, through the Ghost Sephiroth in between of Dot, that bridges them. And the tarot that bridges that, we have the planet Venus Dalet, door, is the Hebrew letter for that, and the Empress. She's the gatekeeper that allows us to transcend and begin to enter into spiritual consciousness, mystical consciousness. That's what she is. She's an initiatrix. So as we combine these, we're traveling up the tree at both sides, combining them together. Understanding and knowledge and wisdom come together. And the oneness, the acceptance that goes forth in between. What bridges them is our understanding of our oneness, that we are not separate from all things. Acceptance of who and what we are, truly. True acceptance, not just, again, some abstract concept or idea that we are spiritual beings, but once we to truly realize with a capital R that we are spiritual beings. We gain this understanding, these understandings and perceptions as we work with the tree. And we arrive towards Keter, to transcend and becoming. We travel up the tree from dense matter, through our layers of mind and consciousness and subconscious and psychic consciousness and cosmic consciousness and spiritual consciousness, to begin to arrive at the transcending point, to be able to liberate and transcend beyond material phenomena. So we've gone down the tree to the process and the path of liberation. We've also gone up the tree, path and process of liberation. Again, a very condensed version of this little meetup. But what's above it? I mean, automatically, I was like, as a mystic, so what's beyond that? There's got to be more. I'm always asking why, what? So there's Keter. In this image, you can see that the top Sephiroth, the first one, a manifestation. And above that is Ein Sof Hour, Ein Sof, and Ein. And they represent Ein Sof Hour, God's will, God's intent, and God's essence. So if, again, now we go back, we look at it from a downward trajectory. God's essence, I don't know how to define that other than God's essence. What is God? Well, indefinable, indescribable, we can't fathom it. You could say pure love, pure creation, pure liberation, just absolute with a capital A. But God also distills. The divine creative power becomes distilled to a creative power. And that's the intention. To create. To not just be love, but to give love and express love. Again, we put this in our human terms too. That's the macrocosm. And then we're the microcosm. And then God's will, where the essence of love itself becomes something to express, and then the will to do so, to put into action, begin to move it forward. So there's a brief summary of going down the tree and up the tree, hopefully intriguing you to look more. Again, this isn't a be-all, end-all use on Kabbalah. We can't do that in a handful of live streams. These are all designed to get you, again, some mystical modalities or anything in life, we sample a little bit and say, yeah, that's for me. That's it. I know it. And some things we sample and say, that's not for me. Tarot I love. It's not my main modality. Numerology was, for me, just a click right away. I mean, I just synced right with it. Kabbalah, loved it the moment I saw it. I love all the modalities of mysticism. But again, some of them I love even more. And the way we know that is by building that relationship, the process of manifestation, the process of liberation, being able to build that relationship. And that's what this is about. So that's a brief tour of the manifestation liberation. This is another little summary of these things. This is part of the, this is that pullout that comes with the workbook. There's the Tree of Life itself. And again, this way, when you're reading the booklet, you can kind of have this in front of you. You can look at it. And it also has, now the download one's all in color. This was too expensive to be in color when I'm printing them. So, but what we see here on the image is a close-up of this square up here. So this pullout has a description, a key, a legend that you can use while you're meditating and learning and studying. And so as we study and learn, we have the visuals to go with it. All the time I'm reading books on them, they're describing things, and I'm flipping back to the index, flipping back to the center where they have some images, and I'm like, I get lost. So I create these pullouts so you can have them side by side and look at them simultaneously instead of trying to remember. What Sefer are we talking about? Where? What location is it? What number is it? What Hebrew name is it? And so in this image, hopefully you can see it. It's a little bit small on the screen. It describes like a key, like a legend. The Sephiroth, which represents the self, parts of the soul, the life source, the intuition, the intellect, the primal self down there pointing down towards Malkuth. Then you can see one that says the abyss, the veil, because when we describe these things, again, you want to be able to know what they are. Otherwise, you'll forget if you're new studying Kabbalah. I know them now, but it took a while. And then you have Ein Sof Hour, and Ein at the top there. And this little section down the bottom says the primal self must use intellect to see through the veil of reality, cross the abyss, using intuition and connect with the life source and unite the divine self to pierce the triple veil and become realized. That says a lot and a very little. That pretty much sums up the tree. And I had no idea until I read it. I'm like, well, that's my own writing. I was like, wow, that says a lot. Again, that's something to meditate on. For some people, it's a lot, and that's okay. There's other systems. Again, tarot is a representation of this. Numerology, there's different ones. So this is a key of what the tree looks like, how to use it, what it represents. Again, we mentioned the abyss and the veil. I'm sure people get intrigued by that. We're going to go into that. So, but let's look at some of the features of the tree again in detail, as we talked about in our last presentation, that there are the three pillars: severity, mercy, and balance. The Buddha talked all about choosing the middle way, the middle path. To be balanced, to not be extreme in anything in life. But Kabbalah takes it to a profound level by reminding us that we are extreme. We're either happy or we're sad. We either like something or we don't. And we know that we're healthier, and we know that we want to try and live in peace and balance, but that's not easy for us. The tree represents this and shows us how. This is why there are three sides to it and the middle channel in between, to again study these things. And then we also have, you can see the sections there. This is also on the pull-up that comes with it. And again, if you buy it and you download it, it doesn't come like a print pull-out, but it comes separate. So the four worlds represent the four stages, again, of manifestation, the four regions, you could say. Absolute, emanation, eternal and changing, divine world. So that's the divine realm. That's the spiritual realm. Bria, creation. So we've gone from the divine realm where God exists and begin into the process of creation. Heaven, the abode of angels. So don't think that first level, those first worlds, are earth and physical manifestation. These are the heavens, the cosmos, what we call Swarg in Sanskrit, the celestial abodes, where angels and demigods live and exist. Far better than material, but again, it's not quite the true absolute divine. Below that, as we get down into the manifestation of physical, the more dense, Yetzirah, formation, the abodes of lower angels and men's souls, etc. And then Asaya, action, the material universe. So you can see these four worlds represented by the tree. Again, I want to remind you with the complexities and layers of this, it can be a bit overwhelming. That the whole point is to inspire you and to draw you in, to meditate, to study. And for me, and for many mystics, when we study this, we get blown away. The first time it's just overwhelming. It's like, I can't get this. I can't possibly process all this. But again, not only over time, but as we do, every time we pick it up and look back into it, we get a little bit more. And we're so inspired at the beauty and representation, the poetry of how it's described, how mystical modality systems can create and express systems that express and create, that express the process of creation, of manifestation, liberation. And it's a beautiful one. And now we're going to go a little bit further. And we're going to go into an area that I have a particular fondness for. The tree of life with the physical body and chakras. It absolutely doesn't just represent this also, or coincidentally. It does represent this. As a Kabbalist and Kundalini experiencer, etc., this is particularly fond to me. And to me, this is what it's about. I talk a lot about the lightning flash. Again, the process of manifestation and liberation. And I've presented several times on Kundalini and about bringing the supernatural, psychic, psycho-spiritual experience and energy and phenomena that's dormant within us up through the chakras, through the subtle body, to manifest and blossom in the expanded state of consciousness, to divine consciousness, to pure mystical consciousness. The Kabbalah doesn't just also mean this, in my opinion. This is what it is. You can understand all the Sephiroth and the paths and all these kind of things. And again, it just brings you to deeper and deeper layers to ultimately arrive at Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, the Tetragrammaton, the lightning flash, the bolt, the event, supernatural, cosmic event of realization, enlightenment. Done. Game over. Complete. So again, we can see here, and this also on the, comes with your little handout in the workbook. Right there. The diagram that represents our chakras and the tree of life. Now you might say, yeah, but our chakras don't have two sides to it, like the tree is showing there on both sides of that person's body. Well, it does. And they connect. It goes straight up the middle, but these are also, again, we have dot that connects in the middle to the third eye. You can see that. So this is the Hebrew, Judaic representation of the yoga, bhakti yoga, and kundalini yoga mystical event. The lightning flash. For me, as I study Kabbalah, and then one of the first things that turned me on to it, because I'd already had my Kundalini event before I began to study it, is right away, as I did with alchemy. I was like, they're talking about the same thing. They all are. They're all talking about this psycho-supernatural event, psycho-spiritual event of the lightning flash, the explosion of material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. As I mentioned in my Kundalini presentations, you know when you have one, you know when you have one. It ain't something you can mistake. It's a very powerful, life-altering, permanently shifting event. It's not just having some type of wonder or awareness of spirituality. It's an undeniable, absolute event that rewires you. And this is what Kabbalah and the Tree of Life is representing. They're breaking it down like yoga does. It's not conceptual. Your chakras exist. They're what your body is built upon. It's the foundation of your body, Yeshod. It's not just a way of expressing it or describing it. It is that as well. But it is, again, a roadmap, a blueprint, a template that you can use. I like the term blueprint, as I used to be a builder. The blueprint is what we would get from an architect or designer or engineer that would give us all the features and components. This image on paper, this flat, one-dimensional, two-dimensional image on paper, had to be transformed, manifested into a three-dimensional structure. And I had to build some amazing, beautiful things throughout Los Angeles, throughout all of California. Iconic, legendary places I'm blessed to have been a part of. And that's part of what I loved about the most. I look at these blueprints, these relatively crude drawings that we used to call them the funny papers because there was so much wrong stuff on them because architects didn't know squat about being in the field. They worked behind a desk, which is very different, to put it into work. But again, this blueprint, the templates, are what we use to turn this concept into something real. The blueprint doesn't just represent, it shows you how. It shows you what this thing actually is built on, how it works, what it's designed from. This is what the tree of life is. This is what alchemy is. This is what all the mystical modalities that I teach on are. They teach the same things, the psycho-spiritual event of liberation. How to do it, what components there are, how to climb the tree, climb your chakras, serpentine, the kundalini, up through the sahasrara. And that's what this is. So here's the tree again, the whole tree. And I have my own one that I hang on the wall. I've had this for many, many years. It just, when I would meditate on it, when I was doing a lot, the other one actually has, this one, unlike the one you can see, I have tarot images and pictures. Has all the keys on the Sephiroth themselves. Tells you their number, their name. So all the relevant information is there in a very clean system that's very visual that I can understand and meditate upon. So that was a Kabbalah tool for me when I was meditating and using Kabbalah as my mystical system. This is one also. This is the one that's in the pullout. And there's the backside of it that I've been showing you. A lot of information, a lot of features, a lot of components, a lot of stuff to use. Again, I think the challenge is that we can start to feel that it's overwhelming. Same thing with yoga, same thing with alchemy, same thing with kundalini. I mean, I have a student that I'm working with currently that, as we're working with kundalini yoga meditations, is saying to me when I was going over the kundalini stuff, how can I keep track of all these different levels and layers? And I said, you can't at the beginning. You keep coming to class, you keep working with these things, you keep reading the book that I've given you, the workbook that I have for kundalini yoga and Ashtanga, and practice makes perfect. I mean, you don't go to math class in kindergarten and understand algebra. You got to keep going. In my view, this is partly the way of the divine realm's way of filtering out and sifting out the wannabes. People won't truly commit. They just want to do it on the weekends. They just want an easy path. I don't know about you, but me personally, I don't want it to be easy. I like that it's challenging. That something, the more value something has, the harder it is to attain. That's an axiom of life. It's proportionate. If something's easy to attain, it's because it doesn't have much value. The more valuable something is, the harder it is to attain. The more work and sacrifice and commitment it's going to require. So one of the ways that I personally kind of gauge the efficacy of a mystical modality is just that. Is it challenging? Is it accurate? Is it gratuitously challenging? A lot of systems are very gratuitous. They make it that way because it just, Many of the mystics in the past, Crowley and I love their work, but they, in my view, have often deliberately made things more complex than they need to be to make it inaccessible to people that aren't high intellectual academics. And I think that's unfair. I've been blessed with the gift of a very effective intellect throughout my life. I was reading when I was 3. But that's not true with everybody, which is partly why I do these presentations and why even my award-winning methods and systems and book and video course on addiction is done in a video and audio course, because many people can't read that material. I've got clients and people that have ADD and ADHD, and they came to me years ago, one of them with tears in her eyes, and said, I don't get any of this stuff. I can't appreciate and use this life-saving knowledge because I can't read. Can you please make this an audio book? So I went from there and turned it into a video course as well. Because some people learn better by reading. Some people learn better by listening. Some people learn better by seeing. Some people need all 3. Some people only need 1. We need to find our modality. Again, there are dozens of mystical modalities. Only a handful of them are actually genuine. Which ones? Well, the ones I've been presenting to you on that have been around, that are timeless. Yoga for sure. These are all derivatives. These are all versions of yoga. I don't just mean exercise yoga. I mean Ashtanga, the entire process, all 8 branches of it. Alchemy, Kabbalah, numerology, all these mystical paths. They're not just there to tell the future. That's crap. That's a waste of time. The future's going to happen whether you know it or not. You can't stop it. Trust me, from a guy that got hit in the face with a truck, if I could tell the future, and I'm pretty good at it, you think I will let that happen? So these are systems that teach the same thing in different languages. They change over time to go from what they originally were in Sanskrit, from culture to culture, to civilization, to conform to their perceptions and abilities. What else we got? The conclusion coming up. Here we go. The tree of life is the essence of Kabbalah, and Kabbalah is the essence of Judaism. And Judaism is the patriarch of the patriarchal religions. Let me restate that. The tree of life is the essence of Kabbalah. They're not different. They're not separate. It's not a feature of Kabbalah. The tree of life is Kabbalah, as was presented in the first workshop on this. And I could do a dozen more, but I won't. This is hopefully to entice people to get into it and see if it's the right path for them. But it is the essence of Kabbalah. If you're studying the tree of life, you are doing Kabbalah. If you're doing Kabbalah, you need to study the tree of life. The tree of life is Kabbalah. The description, the exploration, the expansion within Kabbalah, again, here's Robert Gardy's book, Garden of Pomegranates, is this thick, is a way of understanding the tree of life. Well, you could say that the tree of life is a way of understanding Kabbalah. It is the representation of it. Images speak 1,000 words. We respond more into images. It says a lot in a little. That's what the tarot does. The tarot cards each represent deep, complex concepts in a picture. That's why they're invented, because Waite and Coleman Smith worked together to do the Rider-Waite deck, because tarot was invented centuries before by mystics, because they knew that eventually someday the Kabbalistic tree of life and the knowledge of it written down in these big long forms was someday going to be gone and lost to history. And so they got together, a group of mystics, many of them, and said, let's turn this into a pictorial imagery form so it can be preserved for millennia, for centuries and centuries, for eternity. So Tree of Life is the essence of Kabbalah, and Kabbalah is the essence of Judaism. Judaism, see, religions will teach you that mystical paths, Rosicrucianism and Christianity, Kabbalah and Judaism, are offshoots of their religions. BS, exact opposite. The religions, for me, religion means business. Mystical path means spirituality. Religions are businesses. And don't get me wrong, they have their place, very important place. But mystical paths, such as Sufism in Islam, and Kabbalah in Judaism, and Rosicrucianism in Christianity, and Yoga in Hinduism, I don't like that term, Hindu, in Sanatan Dharma, they are not spin-offs from the religion. The religions are spin-offs from them. Here's a crazy analogy. It's kind of like Burning Man, which I've never been to. I don't have a big desire to go. Burning Man, same with many of the music festivals now, started off with something very small, a bunch of hippies in the desert. They got together to do something really eclectic and strange. Now, it is, of course, a huge corporation. Multi-million-dollar event, hotels and parking and it's so commercialized, you could say, but it has to be, because more and more people learned about it and were intrigued by it and wanted more of it. And so they wanted to get closer to it and participate. And what are you going to do? Turn them away? No, we don't want to get commercialized, so we're only going to let 50 people in here. Everyone wants to come. This, well, what about me? I mean, why are these 50 people more important than me? I want to experience and appreciate this. So it gets bigger. And rules and policies and parameters need to be set to keep it safe and keep it functioning. Same thing. Mysticism begins at a core. It begins, in essence, as something pure, the true teaching of how to become liberated from physical manifestation to liberation, spirituality. And over time, more people get involved, more people get confused, and eventually you have a bunch of corporate types that need to commercialize it and see it as an opportunity to make money, like Burning Man or anything else. And sure, the origins, the essence of it gets tainted. And there's many people that are like, oh, in the old days, Burning Man was phenomenal. Now it's just commercialized. I can't think of the music festival, the one that Perry Farrell started. That, I mean, even the EDC, Electric Daisy concert. I mean, I haven't been, but I mean, I've heard and I've seen the images. Oh my God. But this thing started off in somebody's backyard. So yes, you lose a lot of the integrity and the originality of it to go big. But what can you do? Turn people away? So religions are the offshoots of the mystical paths. Judaism is the patriarch of patriarchal religions. Judaism, Christianity, and then Islam. Those three. Kabbalah, Tree of Life, it is a system which reveals the process of creation, the macrocosm of divine creation and the microcosm of human creation. Either way, as I said, the process that God himself goes through to create and manifest the universe is the same process you go through to make a sandwich, to create a business, to have a child, to meditate and become spiritual, to clean your house. It goes through the same process. Kabbalah and Tree of Life teaches us a system of manifestation and liberation, which are simultaneous, two avenues in the same way. Two avenues go in a different direction. This is what it is. By studying and applying Kabbalah's Tree of Life, a person can become an enlightened, transcend the material phenomena. So what is it? These three things that I put there, that's what Kabbalah is. It is a system that by applying, a person can become enlightened and transcend the material phenomena. That's what Buddhism is for. That's what yoga is for. That's what alchemy is for. That's what they're all for. Because we are not here to simply make better physical lives. We are here to eventually figure out that we don't want to be here at all anymore. That we are here as spiritual beings having a human experience. We need to be returned to and continue to perfect our spiritualness. Spirituality. Or you can just surrender your heart, mind, and will to the divine. Either one will work. So you can do all these systems, or you can just surrender your heart, mind, and will to the divine. And that's what landed me back to Bhakti Yoga. Practicing many of them through much of my life and loving and adoring all of them. My appreciation, affection, and love for my particular path of Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, devotional surrender, is often more powerful and more potent than many of the people that I meet every day at my temple nearby next door that participate in it too, because I sampled all these things before and I didn't reject them. Oh no, those are all wrong. Kabbalah is wrong. Yoga is right. No. Any more than I looked at what I learned in first grade and 10th grade as wrong. I just continue to move down through the process. I continue to graduate to higher and higher levels. Kabbalah and Bhakti Yoga speak of the exact same set of things in different ways. For me, Bhakti Yoga, the path of surrender, is an easier system. It's not as complicated. Kabbalah, I love because it's complicated. I love the mechanics of it. But I'm an intellectual snob. I get off on that kind of stuff. Many people don't. Many people get drawn to it because that's all they want. I think that's a mistake. Don't get bogged down in your intellect. One of the worst adversaries of your spiritual liberation is your intellect. You need it. You need knowledge. Knowledge is power. That's my motto here. Knowledge is power. I'm saying it all the time. But the point is to gain enough knowledge where you don't need it anymore. As somebody that likes to appreciate crafting something well in the kitchen, I like to cook a little bit. I learned how to cook something out of a cookbook. But within a few tries, I'm not even using it. I'm making it myself. Not just by memory. I've learned what seasonings and what ingredients and what elements go best together. So I create my whole entire different things. On my counter right now, I got a can of zesty Italian garbanzo chickpeas. I don't even know what it is. I just saw it on the shelf and I grabbed it. And this morning I'm like, you know what? I've got an idea. I'm going to mix up some pasta. I'm going to put it into a dish. I'm going to bake it. I'm going to put in some cheese and I got a can of tomatoes and I got a can of these chickpeas. I'm making it up. The knowledge I have acquired through cooking, by watching my mother when I was a kid, by learning from cookbooks here and there, and by just paying attention. I've acquired the knowledge and then transcended it. Now I can create on my own. That's kind of our point. So for me, whichever system you want, numerology, alchemy, Kabbalah, tarot, without Kabbalah or with, go to the one that feels right for you. Because the one that's right for you, the one that feels and resonates with you, it does that because you spent past lives working with it. I was had several lifetimes involved with alchemy, no doubt about it. As a past life regressor, I have a lot of detailed memories of these things. My new book will be demonstrating that. It's called Life After Life, an epic journey through reincarnations. So whichever one that we gravitate to, here's a wonderful image of the tree of life. You can see Malkuth down at the bottom. You see the two pillars on the side. You see the pillar up the middle. You see each path and each Sephiroth. And then you see the wings at the top. representing liberation, expansion, manifestation down below, liberation up top. Sums it up. So whichever one you choose, whichever one you're drawn to, is because you spent prior lifetime working there and it's familiar to you. We like that which worked before. We're drawn to it. Same with people that we're in love with, people, our kids, people that we are close to, people that we feel a connection to, soulmates, etc. That's because you've known them in the past. You had a relationship with them. And there's many people that you meet that you can't stand them when you meet them. Same thing. It's because in a recent past life, you guys were adversaries. And so it's like oil and water. So again, I share these different mystical modalities with you to be able to give you the opportunity to sample, to brush up against them, to see if it draws you in. And if it does, go deeper. And if it doesn't, move on. Same thing when we're going shopping. If you, depending on what you want, you don't go to the candy store, I want shoes. The candy guy will be like, well, keep moving down the mall. I mean, there's a shoe store down there somewhere. You don't go into the candy store and say, no, I want shoes here. No. Same with your spirituality. Whatever one draws you, whatever one that you want, whatever result you want is the path you should follow. This presentation and the spiritual triangle presentations and what's on the website and these workbooks are a way to more than sample, but to practically apply and sample them in a real way so that you can firsthand see and decide whether it's a good path for you, whether it resonates with you, your mind and your spirit. And if it doesn't, move on. I've got several workbooks on the Spiritual Triangle website, spiritualtriangle.com, for just that reason. I've got one on yoga, I've got one on alchemy, I've got one on Kabbalah, one on meditation, various things. I'm never going to preach to anybody and tell them this one's right and that one's wrong. Whichever one suits you. I have the one that works for me. I like being vegetarian and vegan. That's what works for me. I'm not saying everybody else has to be. Our politics and our religion has to be very personal. So thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you got something out of it. Again, I invite you and encourage you to go to the website, spiritualtriangle.com. Take a look around. There's a lot of free stuff there, a lot of free blog posts and things to give you a better understanding, very crash course kind of stuff. There's workbooks and things there. I also offer sessions and training sessions. I have many students that I train one-on-one in their mystical endeavors, teaching them how to meditate on various things. One of them is a Kabbalah student. One of them is a yoga student. And so I train those. I train individually. So you're invited to do that. And again, if you would thumbs up and like the channel, that's always appreciated too. And I appreciate your time. And I don't see any questions, so maybe I just answered them. So maybe I just was so thorough that nobody had anything, since I was just very complete. So thank you for your time. We'll meet again soon. I think what's coming up next is I think I'm going to be doing I Ching, the Oriental system of the 64 hexagrams, a wonderful Oriental system of understanding the process of living within harmony within the world. Okay. Radhe Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Om Shanti, and be at peace. And thank you very much. Bye.